Welcome to the Collector's Archive. Interface access loading. File Paul Transformers the show.
Well, right. Okay, let's just make a start. To hell with it. Right. Good evening, Paul. How are we, sir?
I'm really good, thank you. Just travelled down from Aberdeen, so
Yeah.
not just for this. This is my home. So I've travelled 5 or 6 hours to finish work. But yeah, apart from that, really good. And thank you for having me on.
No, I appreciate you agreeing to come on and have a chat with us. As ever, we're going to start by, if you just want to take a moment to introduce yourself and let us know where we can find you. Not actually physically, but on the over the social media platforms and things like that.
So I do a show on a Friday at 8 o'clock on YouTube with some friends, which is called Transformers the Show, which we've been doing for about 3 years. So you can just type in Transformers the Show and you'll find it on YouTube. There's Facebook as well. We're there. It's turning into a plug now. It's not meant to be, but yeah. So Transformers the Show. And I do stuff on YouTube with some like-minded gentlemen. We have a very gentlemanish show which we enjoy, and you've been on there, Ed, and as have many others, and yeah, it's all good fun.
Yeah, no, it's good stuff. It's a good laugh. I mean, but is there also is there other stuff that you do separate from Transformers, a show related to Transformers, or is it just you mainly keep it to that?
Yeah, there is. So I think if you go onto Facebook and there's some of the Transformers pages like TF UK, we've got the Transformers the Show. So I admin across quite a few of the groups, the Transformers group as well.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of Facebook stuff, which is a lot easier than it used to be adminning. You're generally just chatting, aren't you? And having conversations and talking about Transformers. So quite a bit of that, quite a bit of collecting, quite a bit of going to conventions. They're normally my highlight of being a Transformers fan, because it's just such amazing community. They're also friendly, and you don't get that sometimes. I love other stuff like Star Trek and Warhammer, comics, 2000 AD, the whole geeky spectrum. But I've never found such a fan base, which is there's not a lot of elitism. They're really welcoming, really opening. And when I first started getting into it, I wasn't an expert in Transformers. I just had what we all had as a kid. But yeah, so that bit, the convention bit, I try and go to as many as I can, which is normally, much to my wife's disagreement, it's normally all of them, all the conventions, and they keep more and more keep coming out. And there's another one in Reading now in November.
All right.
It's TF Minicons. They're doing 2 TF Minicons. So yeah.
Right then. Well, I'll crack on with the questions then. And so, I'm a bit rusty, as I've said a bit earlier on. So, right. So, do you want? Not that it's going to take Columbo to work this out, but do you want to just talk us through what your current collecting focus is?
Yeah, sure. So probably at the moment I'm collecting a lot of probably more Masterpiece. It's just weird, we were talking before the show, about that Pengu Prime, and it's just that massive. I've got the box here. For those who don't know, it's just a huge, massive Optimus Prime based on Magic Square, and it's not Masterpiece. It's based off, I guess, an upscaled Masterpiece, but it just sits in the collection. There's nothing to go with it, and it's those random bits I keep buying, which I probably shouldn't. But outside that, probably Masterpiece, Fans Toys I really love, collecting a bit of Legends, a bit of Mainline as well, a little bit of everything, and some Warhammer stuff as well.
Yeah, because I've noticed, I'm just seeing the back, you've got there's some Black Series card backs that you've got there as well.
Yeah, so I got into that as well. So I have almost every single Mandalorian type figure, so whether it's Boba Fett or Jango Fett or the Mandalorian, that took up a couple of years of my life collecting that as well. So lots of Star Wars stuff. Do you collect it as well? The Black
I do,
stuff?
yes. Yeah, I had a limited, dip my toe in, let's say, on G.I. Joe Classified. I just picked up the ones that I had as a kid. So I only had 5 G.I. Joe figures as a kid. So I just, it was pretty easy, to pick those ones up. Black Series, I have a penchant for Stormtroopers or Stormtrooper variants, so You know, I've got the Stormtrooper and the Snow Trooper, and you know the AT-AT pilot, the TIE pilot. You know, things like Boba Fett. You know, so it's mainly like the masked kind of characters.
Yeah, they look so good, don't they?
Yeah, rather than the human-faced ones, kind of thing. So what would you say then at the moment is like shapes your collection? You know, or sorry, your collecting habits. You know, is there any particular motivations, and do you have like an ongoing or end goal to it?
I think with Transformers, it's the '86 movie, and you're kind of finding your way to find, like, toy-wise, what does best represent what you had as a kid. I think one of the things which I got frustrated with Fans Toys and some other companies as well was just how slavishly too accurate they could be.
Yeah.
And when you looked at some of their G1 toys, they looked quite basic, and I know they weren't, and I had loads of them, but they didn't turn me on. When I was a kid, though, when I got into the movie, like Cyclonus with like backward wings and like Galvatron, all that looked like super detailed. So when I got those Fans toys, I thought they were brilliant. Like, and I probably lost that. It didn't matter that they were so too accurate, because as a kid, they felt super detailed and super futuristic to me. So it represented that really well. So that probably took me into Fans Toys. I was happy with that, and they still are. They still sit in the shelf. I have a special section next to my bed where I basically have a couple of shelves going upwards, and my iPad. And it's one of my favourite places in the world. I go to home when I get home, have a cup of tea, sit there. I can read a book, and then I have my Warhammer, all the Fans Toys, and then some like Chosen Earthrise figures. So, and I just like them because they're just great to pick up, and they sort of represent some of my favourite ones. But they are in my view, like the best that Hasbro's done. Like Earthrise Prime, I think, is one of the best Transformers I've ever owned. Their version of Netflix, Bumblebee, as well, I thought was exceptional. So I kind of pick up. They can't have little clusters. So there's a little cluster of Earthrise and Hasbro stuff. There's a slightly bigger cluster of the Fans Toys, 86 movies. And I've got some stand-ins like Ultra Magnus's. I think it might be MP22, the Takara version.
Right.
So there's a few mixes in there to represent characters, but I love them. I love looking at that shelf.
Yeah.
And then there's some big things like Pengu toys. There's Unique Toys Providers up there. There's the knockoff Tarn. If you've seen that, I think it was I can't remember the name of the company. They've only done a couple of things, but it was the KO version of the Hasbro Tarn, just made a bit bigger.
Right.
So he's there as well. So just random stuff I pick up, and lots of, we were talking earlier, lots of stuff I buy, have it for a couple of weeks or a couple of months, and then I sell it on for a little bit cheaper. And I get to experience that toy. But probably upstairs is the ones that stay with me. I think, I really like that. It's amazing. That stays in the collection, and it goes up to the secret room where the magic happens.
Yeah. Excellent. So that, I mean, I know we briefly touched on it earlier, but I mean, is there anything that's new to your collection at the moment? And, have you any pre-orders that you're waiting for to come in? And then past that, is there anything that's maybe on your radar that you're thinking, I'll keep an eye on, I'll probably pick that up?
There isn't at the moment. I've got nothing on pre-order. I've got new stuff, and I've got the Pengu toys is probably the closest to something new in my collection. Black Mamba, that's it. The Black Mamba Tarn is what I picked up recently. Outside of that, there's not lots that I want to. So I want to get. I can't remember his name now, but it's Fan Toys version of Scourge. So I've sold my X Transports version.
Yeah, the Andrus.
Sold him last week. Yeah, so he's gone. So I'm looking forward to getting him. Outside of that, there's probably not much else. I'll wait for TFN. I'd love to get a Springer, so a decent Springer. I'm still undecided. Like, there's so many like opinions out there about what Springer's the best. He's missing from my 86 movie shelf. I was going to get Fans Toys because most of my stuff's Fans Toys. A lot of people says X Transports is quite good. But yeah, outside of that, I love seeing what Hasbro stuff. I pick up a lot. I sell it a lot.
Yeah.
But I love picking up the Transforming it for a bit, keeping it for a bit, putting it on the shelf for a bit, then selling it. and every now and then with Hasbro, they just knock it out of the park, and I think, oh, that one's staying with me. But yeah, no, I'll wait till TFM probably, save a bit of money up, and hopefully get a Springer, and I'll probably get. Ian wants me to get Inquisitor. His name, isn't it? Fans Toys Inquisitor.
Yes. Would you say there's a particular character, not just Transformers? It could be anything, from what you collect. But is there anything that hasn't been made yet that you'd like to see be made, or made available, so then you can get it into your collection?
I thought it was Point Blank. When I got Contact Shot, I kind of fell out of love with him a little bit. When I got, because I did have the Hasbro one as well, I was disappointed with him. So I don't know, maybe just another version of Point Blank, maybe more. I guess the was it Emma? No, it wasn't Emma. It Make Toys, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was Make Toys.
Yeah, their version is probably quite old now. It looked good. It was very big, and it's a bit like I don't know. I would like a really nice Hasbro version of Point Blank. That would make me happy, and a really nice Hasbro version of Ape Face, because I did not like the Siege one at all.
No.
So probably those.
Well, taking a step back and looking at your collection as a whole, is there a particular piece that you find yourself that you keep going back to, like, you're vibing or you dig on, so wherever you have your collection, whenever you walk into that room, you're like, it's the one that you seem to go to the most and pick up and just have like a little fiddle about with and put down. Is there one particular one for you at the moment?
Yeah, definitely. I always think your newest one is the one you sort of walk past, give it a cheeky side eye and think, I'll have a look at you later. You end up getting so busy, don't you, with work and stuff.
Yeah.
I never get as much time as I would want to transform all this stuff and have a look at it. But I'd say if there's anything I always go back to, it's got to be Earthrise Prime. Like, I will just walk past him, or even at night, and it will do my wife's head in. We'll both go to bed. I'll just grab him off the shelf, and I'll just put him in a few poses in my hand. It sounds so weird. And then I'll transform in, and then you have to transform him back because they have to display in their robot mode, of course. That's the legal requirement for being a collector. So he'll come out all the time. Sometimes Bumblebee, Netflix Bumblebee, Magic Square Huffer. So I loved Huffer as a kid. It was one of my favourite ones. I was walking down the street at about 6 or 7 years old, and I accidentally dropped him out of my hand. I threw him into the road, and the car smashed him to bits. I've still got his legs. My parents could never find another Huffer, and they could never find the rest of him. So I only had his legs for years, and I kept him forever. I've still got the legs there. The legs are behind Fans Hobby, and Andrew Tate gave me a complete Huffer at one of the TFNs. Which was lovely, so I've got a complete Huffer now. But Magic Square Huffer was such a good toy in both modes, and it had all the ticks: a brilliant alt mode, a brilliant transformation, a brilliant robot mode, and a massive connection with nostalgia. So I almost feel like anchored by him in my collection, and I don't have a lot of Legend stuff anymore, but he sits in that collection, and I'll grab him and I'll put him out for a quick transformation.
Tough question now is, what's your rescue item? It's the apocalypse. The apocalypse. You can save one thing. What are you going to take with you?
Does it have to be my wife, or can it be a transformer?
No. Your family's safe. Yeah, your family's safe. Okay.
That makes it easier, to be honest. Yeah, it's a tough decision otherwise. So non-transformer stuff, I have the USS Enterprise 1701A Eagle Moss, which was quite a rare release. They didn't release many of them because the company went bust. It's the XL version. I would have to grab that because it'd just be so hard to get that again. Or there was the San Diego Comic-Con Defiant, which is cloaked. It's not cloaked, it's clear plastic, and the plastic they used was it's just been done. But and over the years, it's got like the worst. When you get that plastic syndrome where it starts fading and turning orange. It's had the worst. It doesn't look cloaked at all now. So that was quite rare. So one of those.
It could be It could be under. It's under Cardassian phaser fire because the Cardassian uses yellow phasers. So it could. You could headcanon it. That's why it's gone yellow.
Using your that's the brain which got us through as kids, didn't it? With the lack of combiner wings, limbs. So probably those two. Transformers wise, it's weird because there's not a lot which has nostalgia in terms of I've not had it for ages.
Right.
Like as a kid, they've all been representations of what I had as a kid, so they would.
Yeah.
You could buy them again if you had to. I guess I would have to get Unicron.
Right.
Because that would be a hard thing to get again.
Yeah.
But natural urge, just like, right, you need to get out now, grab. It would be Earthrise Prime, I think. I would grab him.
Right.
I'd want to take him. If I was going onto a desert island, I'd probably grab him and take him. If I was going to stay in a hotel for 6 months whilst my house was being built, I'd probably grab him.
Right. Would you say then that your favourite item in your collection? Or would you say there's something else that's your favourite item?
Yeah, that's probably one of my favourite. The only thing is, it's quite an easily replaceable toy. So, that's probably my favourite. If I had to choose one forever to live with, it would be him. If they updated him, because I think there's a new thing was released today, wasn't it? It was an even more G1 toy, Optimus Prime. But with kind of like a little bit more articulation, a little bit more. It wasn't as much of a slave to the original design as the previous.
Yeah, it's the is it Legacy Unlimited? Is it?
That's
it's G1 Optimus Prime. You did touch on it earlier, but I mean, I don't know if you want to go in a bit more detail. But like your other interests outside of Transformers, things like like other toy lines and franchises, that are on your core, your main focus core collecting. So what do you want to? Take us through some of that.
I think probably one of the biggest ones is Eagle Moss. So they've kind of done all the starships. I was a massive Star Trek fan, so I think I'm about there. The ones I need to get aren't that rare, so they can wait till sort of Christmas as presents. Pretty much all the Federation Star Trek ships. I'm a huge Trekkie, and it's always there or there. Transformers and Star Trek have always been the two ever since I was a kid. That's my two main interests. So lots of starships. They're in the bedroom as well. They've made it up there. Joy Toy figures, so Joy Toy Warhammer figures, absolutely love. About 100 of them. They're upstairs as well. I love the whole Warhammer lore. I was absolutely pants at painting figures though, and had no patience to do it. Where with Joy Toy, they come painted and they're posable. They come with all different accessories and stuff as well, so you can build them up. Other than that, like loads of stuff like Pogs, Monster in My Pocket, He-Man, just a little mask, all different things. But nothing to the extent of collecting them. I just dip in, buy a couple of bits I like. And that's it.
Right. So if we go back a bit, then, so stuff that you're doing as a kid, you're growing up with, I don't know what stuff, what cartoons are you watching, and are you reading comics, and is there any particular that stand out that were like a particular favourite of yours growing up?
It's probably the movie, but it was just really hard. All I can remember is just like the absolute excitement of seeing the on Wackaday, watching Transformers in the morning. Like nothing ever compared to that as a kid. Seeing those excerpts of the Transformers was just it was the best thing in the world as a kid, and as an early kid as well. So when I was like 5 and 6, looking at that was amazing. So that really stuck with me, and I couldn't remember growing up many of the stories from that. And it kind of like there was almost like heartbeats. You had that excitement, then you had the toys came in, and then you had the '86 movie, and then the comics sort of kicked in for me. And then it fizzled out with sort of Micro Masters, Action Masters, and then on to Beast Wars. But definitely the G1 cartoon. I don't remember it a lot, but I absolutely remember that feeling of waking up early to watch them, and the excitement when sometimes you'd get a double episode, like would be on a Saturday or something. Then clear memories of the '86 movie, going to see it in the cinema, and being heartbroken and emotionally damaged from it. Like absolutely. Seeing that as a bit of television, I would find it hard to watch as a kid, but I wanted to because it just expanded the universe of Transformers. It wasn't on Earth anymore. They left Earth, the universe was out there. You didn't know what was going to happen to Prime. When you first watched it in the movie, it doesn't say that Prime's coming back. It was only when we watched it on DVD, on VHS.
Yeah.
And the VHS source said Prime will return. You're like, what does that mean? There's no internet.
Yeah.
You can't go out and find it.
No.
So me and my brother Peter, we would talk about it for ages and like postulate what's going to happen, who's going to come back, and you'd come up with these wild fan theories. Then there was no release to say, look, well, next season 4's coming, so you can catch up there. We never had that. So you would randomly get, I remember, where Prime comes back, where they find him on the Death Barge, Dark Awakening, and we had that, and I was so excited, holding it in my hand, like, is this where Prime comes back? Bringing that back to watch on VHS, and then I really got into the comics, and it was just before I got into 2000 AD. I think it kind of like, because 2000 AD is quite gory, isn't it? It's not insanely, but for a kids comic, there's a lot of blood and guts in there, which you love as a 9-year-old boy. You absolutely love that stuff. But just prior to that was Transformers, and those images of like Impactor getting his head ripped off. I sit there for ages going, God, that's the most scariest thing ever, and like loved it though, absolutely loved that fear and horribleness of the Marvel comics. And then you learned about the Wreckers, you learned about Emirate Zaron, which you never saw before. You learned about what happened to Hot Rod, Starscream, and that was it, and that was enough to keep it going. When it got to the 90s, I remember still picking up. I just remember seeing less and less pages in the Argos catalogue dedicated to Transformers. And that was your kind of barometer. And I remember at some point going, look, to Peter, there's no Transformers anymore. And you'd pick some up, like some Transformers G2 in Woolworths. I remember picking them up. But there'd be ones you'd never had before as a kid, Silver Shot. And then it just sort of petered out. And it was probably for me a little bit too early. I was still playing with toys in the early 90s. It could have had another 3 or 4 years with me. But we moved on to Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. Other things took its place. But then you had this 2 or 3 years where you would go to boot fairs and you would just pick up loads of Transformers and loads of Star Wars for like 50p and 20p and stuff. Which kind of rejuvenated a bit. And once that sort of died off, then we started playing more Super Nintendo. We had the Commodore 64 when we were young, which we loved. Got a Game Boy when I was 10. And that was kind of it for Transformers until I got back into it in the 2000s. No, that's great. I mean, you've given me answers there. You've merged two into one there, because obviously the first one was asking about the cartoons and shows you were watching, but then we're going to extend upon that, about the toys that you're playing with as a kid. I mean, one thing I will say is was there a particular favorite toy you had as a kid? Yeah, probably Powermaster Prime. My parents got me. They weren't rich at all. They were really poor. Not really poor, but they didn't have a lot of money at all. But they were always really generous at Christmas time or birthdays, which made them really stick out in your mind. And I remember getting Optimus Prime. I remember getting Powermaster Prime, Metroplex. Those toys. So probably Powermaster Prime. It was just so. By then, you'd built up kind of a little collection of Transformers. And you have brothers. I had 2 brothers as well. So you kind of you pull your toys into one brilliant fantasy that you play out with each other. Metroplex was amazing. Powermaster Prime, he could turn into a base as well. It was just so cool. The only thing I never liked was his legs couldn't move. So I remember stealing my dad's saw and sawing Powermaster Prime's, the little Prime's legs, so that I could move his legs independent of each other. It just turns it into a floppy mess as well. It doesn't work very well.
I know you mentioned there about Optimus Primes at Christmas and things like that, but I mean, is there any other, would you say there's any standout memories about a particular toy that you got maybe for a birthday or Christmas?
I think my earliest memory is Sludge, getting him. I remember sitting there with the package, just looking at him, almost savouring it before you open it. I remember finding his chest piece. I didn't understand why his chest could open, and obviously it was Diaclone, like you could fit figures in it, but they never had that. Being flawed with him, he was a brilliant Transformer as a kid. He was one of my favourites. Having a sword and a gun always helps. A robot. Powermaster Prime. My brother used to pick up Transformers. I remember him getting some brilliant ones. My other bro as well, David, getting a lot of Micromaster bases. Skyhopper, I remember him getting, thinking that was really cool. So yeah, you kind of got a treble benefit from having two brothers, because you would always end up being able to play with those toys. And they got some really good ones as well. I was probably the biggest Transformers fan,
right?
Closely followed by Peter, my second youngest, and then the youngest brother. But no, those are brilliant memories of acting out as well. We used to act out the movie together. We'd take, as the oldest brother, I'd always make myself as Hot Rod. So apologies, Peter, if you ever watch this. And Peter would be Galvatron, and we'd play the whole Light Our Darkest Hour, and then we'd start singing "You've Got the Touch" to each other really loudly. It was brilliant.
Excellent. Oh, that sounds really cool, does that? Do you have any recollection? Can you remember a point that came when you stopped, getting toys and stuff? And, have you any idea or clue of what may have been the last one that you got before you did move on?
Vaguely, I think it was a Monster Bot Firefly, which we picked up in Australia when we came back from Australia. So it would have been probably about 11 or 12 when that happened. It was half my family lived there, and it was just a trip out, a once in a lifetime trip to see them for 6 weeks. So I remember getting that on the way back. That was probably one of the last ones. Then it started going into Beast Wars. I didn't like the organic. I always like robots were so cool to me. Anything technological. I like Beast Wars now, but the whole organic thing as a kid, I didn't like the CGIs, and I kind of fell out of love with it. And then computer games just absolutely took over, like playing Super Nintendo, and then getting PlayStation, then RPGs, Final Fantasies. So it took up like 40 hours of your time. Slowly took over.
I mean, a few people that I've spoken to, it's that kind of thing. It sounds like, that it just one thing morphed into another one. Like say the game in like a SNES or a PlayStation, that became the thing that you were buying and playing with, rather than a plastic and die-cast toy kind of thing. So when would you say that collecting became a thing for you then? Or was there a point? Well, first of all, can you remember what the first piece was that got you back into it, or what you picked up first, and then can you remember the point where you suddenly thought, "Oh, hang on a minute, I'm a collector now. I'm collecting."
I think so. It was. I just remember doing research. It was when I had a little bit more disposable income, so I'd moved in with two friends, Gemma and Dan. We had our own house in Ashford. We lived there for 7 years. It was brilliant. It was a really social house. People used to come around there, and I just remember when my career got a little bit better, and I thought, I've actually got some money left there every month. And I still am really massively into computer games and collecting retro games. So I spend a lot of it on that. I was kind of getting to the point where I almost wanted a break, and it's when I used to like trawl eBay for things, proper back in the day, early 2000s eBay. And I thought, I'll have a look at some G1 inbox toys. I'd love to replicate some of that. I remember going through the posts and looking at, it must have been about 2008, 2009 in the end. It was alternators came up. I had no idea what they were. And I remember seeing those cars and thinking, they're just model cars based on Transformers with a name. They were saying they transform. I thought, there's no way that can be a Transformer. It just looks too good. It looks like a real car. It's got Caesars. How would that possibly transform? And I'm thinking back to like my Transformers where, that's the transformation. So I had to buy Grimlock, alternator Grimlock, which if you've ever transformed him, it's an absolute bastard to transform. So I bought him, and he turned up as a car, unboxed with his sword and his weird gun thing. And I was like, cool, that is an actual car. And then I transformed it, and the Grimlock feet off, he does look good when he's finally transformed. So like, right, that's cool. So then I had another look into it, and there was these really expensive Transformers called Masterpiece Transformers, which just started coming out, and it was Sunstorm. And I ordered him, and he came through, and again, transformation was complicated, but I was like, I could do this, and I really enjoyed it. It was really satisfying. And that was it then. Then the movies started coming out, and I bought Starscream from the movies, and even though I hated the design, I loved the movie, and I loved the Transforming and playing about with him. And that was the first time, like, my housemates were like, why are you buying toys? And I was like,
Yeah.
but it's Transformers and I don't care.
Yeah.
And I never have done with anything. It wouldn't bother me. But they laughed, and they're always friendly and supportive. So then, that was it. Then when did it really take off? It probably took off. I dipped in, and then they released Combiner Wars.
Right.
Bruticus.
Mm-hmm.
And I started buying them for my son. And when I say my son, who was 2 at the time, it was half of my son, half of me. And then I had to get the others. And then in the end, I had the complete Combiner Wars. In fact, in the end, I had an almost complete Power of the Primes trilogy, all in box.
Right.
And that's when I really got into it. And that's when I started, a few years earlier, joined TF UK. Started making friends, started chatting, started posting pictures about my collection. And that's when it probably escalated.
So what would you say? What would you say that you enjoy most about collecting?
I think it's with anything. It's just, and it sounds so cheesy, but it's the people and the friends you make.
Right.
It sounds absolutely, but I just think the amount of times I've been out with like Andy and Jamie and Alexis, Ian, Pete, the wives and stuff. I've been to their weddings. Like I didn't know these people 6 or 7 years ago before I went to Transformers. And you kind of realize that there's actually a load of really nice people out there. You just have this really easy access to be able to start a conversation, which is the brilliant Transformers. So that's my favorite thing. We probably spend more time not talking about Transformers than we do Transformers. When it comes to the Friday night, we can sit down and relax, and you've got that context. And we come up with different subjects each week, like your top 5 springers. It really makes you think, and it's just makes me look forward to it at the end of a hard week at work, to be able to sit down. If I said to my wife every Friday I want to go down the pub with my mates, she'd say, no, don't be so absolutely ridiculous. But because it's a podcast and it's with friends, it's absolutely permitted. So I love it, and that's probably the best bit. The toys are good though. I do like picking up a nice toy and having a play around with it. But probably the friends you make.
Good stuff. So on the flip side of that, is there anything that you dislike about collecting?
That's a really good question. I've never thought of that. Quite happy with how I collect. I probably don't feel like you were saying, like I kind of feel like I've got what I want, and I'd maybe upgrade stuff. If there's anything I hate about collecting, I love it that kids, like my 2 sons, get engaged with it. Don't know. There's anything bad about it. I think in all communities you sometimes get some people who take things the wrong way and stuff, and you see people fall out. I've been quite lucky, I haven't really fallen out with anyone, but you sometimes see that when you have to admin pages. You see it a lot, and it's a lot easier, isn't it, to fall out with someone on the internet than it is in real life. And a lot of time it's just a mistake on someone's part, or not seeing it from the other person's point of view, seeing what their paradigm is. That probably is 90% of all things. So it's sometimes sad to see that when people fall out, and you do get some of that. And I know there's groups of people at TFN who won't mingle and stuff, and you think they're nothing to do with us. They're completely, these are 2 different groups who aren't anything to do with Transformers the show. But you can't sometimes think life's so short. You could have such a great time together, and we're all adults. It's probably that side of the collecting you kind of fall out. I really don't see much elitism or gatekeeping in the Transformers community.
No.
That you do see maybe some other interests.
Right.
And the only other bit I hate is when they bash like anyone who likes Bayverse or Beast Wars and stuff. That sometimes gets a bit annoying. We'll probably elaborate on that one in a bit, because that kind of touches on a question that I've got coming up in a couple of months' time. What we'll ask you next, though, is if you could give your younger self some advice about collecting, so if you could go back to your younger self when you started, when you got back into it, what kind of advice would you give yourself? Have a focus. Choose something. Have a focus on it. Pick up the odd bits that you love. I think when I first started collecting, it's probably more games. I collected everything. So any console, from the bloody Vectrex to the 64 Double D.
Yeah.
Anything I would just collect, and
Right.
it became all consuming and very expensive, and also you lack quality because you'll pick up certain amounts of things and you'll never ever play them and you'll never even look at them again. So yeah, just have that focus. Think about what you love. I love the 86 movie and have some really nice 86 Transformers to represent that. When I started collecting Combiner Wars, it's almost that urge, the Pokemon, collect them all. I had to have every single figure which came out from the line, including the rare ones and stuff, and it drives it. And it's never satisfying, even when you collect them all. And you often will end up selling them off because you don't have that attachment to sort of half your collection. But if it's focused and it's something you really like, long term they'll stay with you.
Yeah. So would that apply then if you could? So, it doesn't have to be Transformers, it could be anything, but would it be a similar kind of advice then that you give to someone that you knew that was just starting off collecting?
Yeah, it would be. It'd be collect what you love. Don't let others influence you. Yeah. I think sometimes people get railroaded into collecting stuff. I think sometimes people think they can only collect Masterpiece, or they can only collect third party, or they can only collect Hasbro. And almost become brand loyal to that subject. And you shouldn't. There's so much good from each one you can take. You're missing out if you're not doing that. Unless you're absolutely mega rich and you can just buy everything. It's probably, I wouldn't worry about crossing lines.
No. Don't worry about crossing the streams.
No.
Right. So that what you were talking about earlier. Actually, no. Yeah. Before I go on to that, then, do you ever feel like you'll stop? Do you think a time will come where you will stop collecting? No,
it's relentless. It never ends. Ed, it's forever.
Yeah,
I'll be buried. No, I don't think so. I think some people have more of a compulsion, to collect stuff. And I definitely have that compulsion. I like collecting stuff. Gives you something to talk about and something that you're interested in. So no, I don't think I'll stop.
Right.
Ever. I might change, but Star Trek and Transformers have always been at the top. There's never been a point where I haven't really collected one of those.
Right. This was a question that I don't think I've included this one before. This was one that I came up with. I've just jotted it down here on my notes, and it's not really that coherent, so I'll just put it as I do that from time to time. I'll have an idea and I'll jot it down, and I'll come back to it and I'll be like, "What the hell was I thinking when I wrote that?" What do I mean?
Sometimes I think I can do shorthand and I'll write stuff down like my boss will say, and I definitely can't. I look back and go, "That's just lines." There's no words there.
Yeah. So what I've wrote here is, feel constricted by collection. Or sometimes do you feel like it's a bit of an albatross around your neck?
I think it used to be. I think when you would just collect one thing on the collection, you would feel tied to that. You could go in and experience something else. And it's hard because different people have different budgets as well. So, sometimes you can't afford to just dive in and check out what that line looks like. You have to make a conscious decision to buy that jazz and not that jazz because that jazz scales with your collection. I guess you can always sell stuff, so I would encourage people to try stuff. And there does seem to be a bit of like, I'm a Chug collector, I only collect Chug. Everything else is shit. I'm a Masterpiece collector, I only collect Masterpiece, and everything else is shit. Which kind of holds people back. So I don't know if those people feel constricted into collecting it. And sometimes I get defensive. Like if I had to nail my colours to a mast, I'm a Masterpiece collector.
Right.
And if someone starts going on, well, this is Chug's as good as Masterpiece, I'll be straight and go, well, it's not. I get really defensive. I've seen Alexis do the same, and I've seen it on the other side as well. Because Andy and Jamie are quite big Chug collectors. So I think we feed that. I think we say don't collect Beast Wars far too much on the show, and I actually quite like Beast Wars. So we probably feed that a little bit, but I don't know. I think you should feel railroaded into a certain collection.
Yeah. So right. So this is what you touched on earlier on. It's like the aspects of the separate from the actual, what you enjoy about collecting, but the things about, the aspects of the collecting community as a whole, things that you like and dislike about it as a whole. Is there anything, have any thoughts on that?
Yeah, just meeting people and making new friends is just the best bit. I think we spoke about earlier, didn't we? Like back in the day, you used to be on forums, which were quite anonymous. You didn't know who they were.
Yeah.
Nowadays, we look at Facebook, we all know who each other are, so you have to be almost a little bit like you would be face to face when you're talking to people. So that presents you more of probably a better environment to grow friends. And you can just be funny. You can just write stupid things on TFUK about Transformers that no one else will get. No one else in the world would ever get. And you can make a stupid joke about Impactor's face, and people will laugh at it. And you don't really see that anywhere else. And you're amongst other people who can understand that joke. When I remember first going to TFN and meeting Jamie and having a good laugh with him. And he introduced me to Andy. Then I introduced them to Alexis. And we just got on. Our wives all met each other and girlfriends, and they got on. And it just grew from there. So in terms of the community, that's the side you love to see. Side you don't love to see, I stay out of Twitter. I get constant updates by the people who are in Twitter on the current wars going on. And people take sides on Twitter. They have quite strict views on both sides. Like a lot of it seems to be based around left and right wing views. Right. And that's probably where I sort of struggle. You just don't get that if you know someone or you talk to them or you see them face to face. You do get a flare up massively on Twitter. Now, I know it affects. I know people say it affects their mental health quite a lot because they can blow up into huge Twitter rows. So I don't like that side of it.
No. Yeah, that's it. Paul, we're at the end. We've done. So all I'll say now is it's just if you want to take another moment just to remind us who you are and where people can find you, and then we'll sign off.
Yeah, well, Ed, thank you so much for having me on tonight. Obviously, Paul from Transformers The Show. You can find me at 8 o'clock every Friday on YouTube. But the best place to head to is always Facebook and just search for Transformers The Show because there's a community there. We have hundreds of people and I post some absolute killer memes. If you like irrelevance and slightly offensive memes centered around Transformers and collecting, you'll find it all there.
Yeah.
So, and thank you so much for having me on again.
Yeah, again, Paul, thank you very much for agreeing to come on and chatting with us. And until next time, you take care and all the best.
Cheers. Hopefully see you on the show soon.
Yep. No worries. Take care.
Interface access disengaged. Thank you for accessing the Collector's Archive. To enable return access, please select the like, subscribe, and notification icons. Initiating shutdown sequence now.